Ever wonder how a song written as a farewell became one of the biggest love ballads in pop history? Let's explore I Will Always Love You.
Hey, I'm Garrett, feeling curious and excited to dive into today's topic.
And I'm Leah, ready to unpack the fascinating journey of our song today. Welcome to Laid Back Learning with Leah and Garrett.
All right, let's set the stage for this one. Today we're talking about I Will Always Love You.
I remember hearing Whitney Houston's version for the first time at a family get-together. Somebody put on the Bodyguard soundtrack, and when that key change hit, I just froze. Later, I found out Dolly Parton actually wrote it, and I was like, wait, what? I grew up with Dolly as this storyteller in country music, but I never connected that this gigantic pop moment was born from her pen. That discovery kind of cracked open how I think about songs traveling through different voices.
Let me paint the picture for you. I Will Always Love You is a ballad, meaning a slower, story-driven song, written by Dolly Parton in 1973. She wrote it as a farewell to her mentor and business partner, Porter Wagoner, who hosted the country TV show she'd been on for 7 years. Think of it as a gently worded goodbye letter set to music. She recorded it at RCA Studio B in Nashville, a legendary recording studio, and released it in 1974. In its first life, it was a country hit. In its second life, thanks to Whitney Houston in 1992, it became a sweeping pop anthem. Same melody, same heart, two very different rooms the song can live in.
Right? And what's beautiful is that the core lyric is rooted in respect. Author Curtis W. Ellison, who writes about country music culture, described it as a breakup handled with mutual respect, initiated by the woman. That was quietly radical in country music at the time. It's not throwing blame, it's saying, I need to go my own way and I'm grateful for what we had. That tone makes it so adaptable. It starts intimate with Dolly, then later becomes this cinematic goodbye through Whitney's voice, and the song still holds its shape.
Let's dig into this. In June 1973, Dolly was at RCA Studio B cutting I Will Always Love You. She was leaving the Porter Wagoner show, and instead of a public fight, she wrote a song that explains her heart. The tempo is slow, around 66 beats per minute, which is like a calm walking pace. That space lets her shape phrases with tenderness. The original single came out in March 1974, paired with a B-side called Lonely Comin' Down. On country radio, it landed with this understated production, pedal steel, twin fiddles, piano, all supporting her vocal, and it took off.
It topped the U.S. Billboard Hot Country Songs chart in 1974, the chart that tracks country radio success. It also reached number 4 on Canada's RPM country tracks, so it was crossing borders early. By year-end, it placed at number 22 in the U.S., meaning it kept getting steady spins. And behind the scenes, the session musicians were Nashville A-listers, like pianist Hargus Pig Robbins and fiddler Johnny Gimbel. The playing is tasteful and restrained, almost like someone holding a door open for the lyric to walk through first.
Here's a twist. When the song hit number 1 in 1974, Elvis Presley wanted to record it. Elvis's manager, Colonel Tom Parker, asked for 50% of the publishing. Quick definition. Publishing rights are the legal rights to the composition itself, so they control licensing and generate songwriter royalties. Dolly said no. She later joked that when Whitney's version came out, she made enough money to buy Graceland. But at the time, turning down Elvis was a gutsy call. She actually cried over it. Still, she held her ground and kept ownership.
Why would Colonel Parker demand half in the first place? That feels like huge.
It was standard practice for Elvis recordings back then. The thinking was, an Elvis cut could turn a song into a standard overnight, so his team wanted a big piece of the long-term pie. But it also meant the songwriter lost control and a lot of income. Dolly's choice changed her future. When Whitney Houston recorded it in 1992, that ownership paid off in a massive way.
Before we jump to Whitney, there's a second country chapter. In 1982, Dolly re-recorded I Will Always Love You for the film The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. New context, lusher arrangement, breathier vocal, and it did something really rare. It went back to number 1 on the country chart. Same song, 2 separate trips to the top 8 years apart. In Canada, it topped the country and adult contemporary charts and even made a dent on pop charts. Critics at the time praised how she refreshed it without losing the heart.
All right, here's where we go cinematic. In 1992, Whitney Houston, a pop and R&B powerhouse, recorded I Will Always Love You for The Bodyguard, which was her film debut. This arrangement starts ultra quiet and then unleashes that famous vocal arc. It dominated the Billboard Hot 100 for 14 consecutive weeks. Quick check, the Hot 100 is the main US singles chart that blends sales, radio, and now streaming. Back then, it was sales and airplay. Whitney's version hit number 1 in 34 countries, topped the Euro chart for 13 weeks, and spent 10 weeks at number 1 in the UK. Global.
Sales were staggering too. It was the world's best-selling single of 1992 and has sold over 40 million copies worldwide, making it the best-selling single ever by a female solo artist. Awards followed. In 1994, it won the Grammy for Record of the Year and Best Female Pop Vocal Performance. In Japan, it earned multiple gold disc honors, including a special award for passing 1 million units there. And Whitney's recording was later selected for the U.S. National Recording Registry, which preserves recordings deemed culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. That's a permanent stamp of importance.
Dolly herself said she liked Whitney's version even more than her own. That says a lot about both humility and the song's flexibility. And talk about flexible. In 1993, British singer Sarah Washington released a high-NRG dance version. High-NRG is upbeat, club-focused dance music with a driving beat. With strong support from London's Capital FM, it reached number 12 on the UK singles chart and number 3 in Spain. Critics compared it to an I Will Survive kind of makeover, and it worked because the melody is sturdy and the lyric still lands, even over a dance groove.
And the story keeps branching. In 1995, Dolly recorded a duet with country star Vince Gill. After they performed it on the Grand Ole Opry, which is a historic country music stage, the TV airing on TNN triggered unsolicited airplay. That means radio stations started spinning it without a formal label push. It debuted on the country chart at number 53, eventually reached number 15, and won CMA Vocal Event of the Year. It even snagged a Grammy nomination. Same song, fresh chemistry. And then years later, Kristen Chenoweth, the Broadway star, released a duet with Dolly in 2019. Plus, in 2016, the Forever Country medley wove I Will Always Love You into a celebration of the genre's history.
Patti LaBelle, one of the great soul vocalists, was another near miss. Dolly had suggested to Patti, long before Whitney's version, that she record it. Patti later said she regretted not doing it. It's wild to think we might have had a definitive LaBelle take in the 1980s. And to measure just how everywhere this song is, BMI recognized it for over 10 million broadcast performances. That's radio saturation on a level where you can basically measure it by seasons of people's lives.
Okay, let's move on to a question that keeps coming up. Is this a romantic love song or a respectful farewell? I mean, real talk, most people I grew up with felt the Whitney version as this grand romantic statement. Movie context, candlelight vibes, all of it. That framing is powerful.
Totally. I think it's often misclassified because of Whitney's cinematic take. The slow burn intro, the key change, the big string swells, it all screams epic romance. But the lyric, line by line, is actually about parting with grace. I will always love you, but I'm leaving. In that sense, it's bittersweet closure rather than a promise of forever together. The arrangement kind of tilts how your brain hears the words.
I hear that, and I lean back to the origin. It began as a professional goodbye to Porter Wagoner. There's this spine of autonomy. As Curtis Ellison noted, the woman is initiating the parting without venom. In the early 1990s, changing ideas about relationships probably helped the song land with broader pop audiences. So for me, the original intent still hums under any version. But I don't think the romantic reading is wrong. It's just a different emotional lens on the same words.
That's a solid point. Maybe the legacy is that it can carry multiple truths. People hear their own stories in it. Some hear gratitude and closure. Some hear everlasting love, full stop. The fact that the same lyric can hold both ideas is kind of the magic trick.
Switching gears just a little. In pop culture terms, The Bodyguard made the song inescapable. It's tied to Whitney's on-screen presence and that final emotional arc. Years later, Amber Riley performed it on Glee in 2012, reintroducing it to younger listeners through TV again. Every time a new voice connects to the song, it sort of refreshes its passport.
All right, let's bounce over to a what if. What if Dolly had agreed to give Elvis Presley half the publishing in 1974, and he recorded I Will Always Love You? We might be living in a world where the definitive version in the 1970s was Elvis's, with his signature vocal drama. The song's public image could have skewed more toward a torch ballad in his orbit, and Dolly would have surrendered a big chunk of control and earnings.
And then what happens in 1992? Maybe Whitney still records it, because the song is strong. But the business math changes. With half the publishing elsewhere, Dolly's long-term benefit shrinks. Also, the sonic memory in the public's ear might already be tied to Elvis's version. Would that have shifted how producers shaped Whitney's arrangement? Maybe they would have leaned differently to avoid comparisons, or maybe leaned in and made it a direct homage. That it definitely would have complicated the legacy tree.
There's also the possibility that an Elvis version in the 70s would have made it feel more like his property in pop memory. When Whitney's cut arrived, it might have been received as a cover of Elvis, not of Dolly. That could have changed audience perception of authorship even more. As it happened, Dolly's refusal protected the song's lineage. By the time Whitney recorded it, the pathway was clear for that version to become a pop landmark, and for Dolly to be recognized as the songwriter who built the house everyone keeps redecorating.
So there we have it. A gentle goodbye letter that turned into a global anthem, shape-shifting across country, pop, and even dance floors without losing its center.
Thanks for hanging with us on this one. Stay curious about how songs travel and how one melody can hold so many lives.